of WTV60, creating mini videos that are really just descriptions of some of the documentation we have put together for prospective producers. This one is called Filming a Story for WTV60. We welcome women that want to create a bigger production for the television, online television channel. Perhaps it's a series or it's a special of various types, But there is the opportunity for women that just have a compelling story that they want to share with our viewers. And this is how you do it. This document is available. Send your story idea via email to info@WTV60.com. That email address we're using for a lot of the initial back and forth communication with prospective producers of all kinds of content and filming a story for WTV60. Women in their 60s and older have a lifetime of stories, memories, successes, and failures. We have been trailblazers, instigators, advocates, experts who have seen so many changes and advancements during our lifetime on this planet. This time frame, if you think about it, women in their 60s and older have lived through the 60s and 70s, a very tumultuous period in the history of our country. WTV60 provides a platform for you to tell a memorable tale, a standout moment in your life, a turning point, something that changed you in some way due to the impact of whatever you experienced, whether it was good or bad. I think of what happened in the 60s and 70s as women were coming into their own and still fighting for equality. I know there are plenty of women out there that could share an experience they had working in a man's world. And still, we know it's and still. We love hearing your inspiring, captivating, and even extraordinary stories. Your story is sure to illuminate the imagination and inspiration of the audience. Our network encourages you to articulate your story in a way that transports, surprises, entertains, and motivates our viewers. Your language, tone, gestures, facial expressions can help the viewer recreate the story in their own minds. Help them be right there with you. Invite them to participate in your tale. For example, can you add drama, suspense, humor, intonation, and inflection in your tale? We've created suggestions to help create and tell your story. Use the following information to help share a clear and interesting and impactful story. Most importantly, speak from the heart. Be authentically you. So there are so many types of stories. So here, look, we came up with 10. 1, you could really just introduce yourself. 2, you could share the value of a topic. It can be a teaching or educational story. 4, the story could make an impact. It could be a demonstration. 5, 6, it could be informational. 7, it could be persuasive. 8, you could be sharing a memory. 9, it could be a how-to. Or 10, it could be a vision of something you have for your future. You know, several of these I learned when I took public speaking back in the early 80s here at City College. We had to do a demonstration and information and a persuasive speech and introduce ourselves. I've forgotten what the 5th one was that we shared that time. So, here are some storylines to consider when you go, I don't even know where to start. This says, oh, we don't have numbers, let's just start. It was a day that changed my life because. Second, when this happened, my world viewed shifted due to. Next, in spite of obstacles, I. Next, when I helped someone else, I. Next, I was attracted to my chosen profession because. Another, despite being told no, I. I love this one. How many times have we been told no? No, you can't. No, you're not good enough. No, that is man's work. No. There are many no's. Next, when I blank, I learned this about myself. Next, what I learned from another was we all have had mentors and inspirational people in our lives that have really given us a valuable technique or tool that took us in a direction that made our life be better, incredible, or manageable. Next, back in the old days, okay, people are going to have a problem with that word old days, but we know what I mean. This is like the then. I've referred to it a few times of what was going on in the 60s and 70s, especially if you were involved in the activism. What the heck were you doing now? And isn't it sad that we are still fighting for women's rights, still, the marches? Maybe we shouldn't have let 40 years lapse in that interim between 60s and wherever we are now, 2020. Two more. Currently, I'm passionate about. And finally, I look forward to. So these are just some things to think about. Any one of those, you could go, oh yeah, I remember that line. This happened to me, and what was the story? This next part is called How to Craft a Story. Tell the point of the tale. Like, we want to know where you're going with this. The who, the what, the where, when, why. Not all of those are important for every story, but think about what is the important gist that you can get the viewer to you, with you in the story. I do repeat, I get ahead of myself. Listen to this one. Tell what was happening at the time, a frame of reference, when and where. Next, share why you think the story is important to you and to the audience. Those initial statements, lines to consider, help you give that frame of reference, the importance of it. Then you tell the story. Tell it with clarity. And finally, wrap up with a quote or a question. This is not required, but it is a way to impact the viewer and even impact yourself. If you wrap up a story with a question, believe me, your mind is going to be thinking about what's the answer to that question. And frankly, it might be the second segment in your story where you brought the audience to this point in time, and then you do a subsequent story that answers that question, just the way it happens in a book. And you can invite the viewer to take action too. Remember, we are inspiring women to take action. Okay, final part for a good delivery. Remember, stories have a beginning, middle, and end. If you think that you are good at just speaking off the cuff, go for it. But just give yourself like those 3 points. Like, okay, what's the beginning about? What's the middle? And how am I going to end this thing? And then in between, you fill in with the actual essence of the story. Avoid being a performer. You really just want to speak from the heart. Tie the story back to the audience. You want them invested in you. They want them to feel like they're part of it, and they could look forward to a future tale if you're offering one. Don't rush the delivery. You will find your own cadence. But many of us do speak quickly, especially when we get in front of a camera. We just feel like we want to rush through it. People could get bored. We've got to talk so fast to keep them engaged. They'll lose interest. But you will naturally develop your own cadence. Speak with a conversational tone. If you're giving a lecture And frankly, I'm in a way giving a lecture with this thing because I'm reading from it, even though I'm commenting on it. It's still conversational. Have an outline. There you go. It's okay to refer to notes or an index card. You know, we're not professional speakers, all of us, not yet. Maybe we'll get there. But it's okay to have a note. Maybe you want to write down, this is my beginning sentence. Here's my middle. Here's my ending. It's so helpful because as we start speaking, we get all adrift in our head. Sometimes we lose our focus. Like, oh, what was the point? Where am I going with that? Or you have that, what's the word, like I'm doing right now, where you totally lost your trend of thought. If you get to that in the middle of a story, it's a good time to be able to look down at a note and make a smooth transition to the next stage if that's where you are. Notes are really helpful, especially for beginning storytellers. One more, omit having too many I statements. What does that mean? We know. I did this, and then 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 I did this. Boring. Not always, but boring. You can always take a moment and describe the scene. What was going on around you? Were other people involved? What was the action? There are ways you can get the point across without starting every sentence with the word I, even though it is your story. Well, that's what I have, and I will finish up with where I started. To share your story, send your story idea to info@WTV60.com. Be sure to include the following: your name, your phone number, 3 good times to reach you, and your story title and brief description of it. Now, why am I asking for your phone number? Online is fine. Texting, email, it works to a point. Before any piece is accepted into WTV60, my goal is to have a real phone conversation with people. It could be over Zoom. But I like that face-to-face. I like that interaction because that is the person that we're presenting to the audience. So I'm sorry, I like to see like what it's not your look, it's just your, oh my gosh, what is it? Your vibe. Maybe it's your vibe, even though vibe you normally think of in person. But I just want to see like what your delivery might be like in your confidence level. So that's it. This is very exciting. I cannot wait to get deluged with women that are ready to tell a story. I'm going to be speaking about this every month. This is the platform for women to tell all. I'm going to just show everybody needs to sign the media release. It will be sent to you if you're accepted through DocuSign. And there are so many topics that we haven't covered yet, and we have not even begun to show and tell women's stories. Thanks for tuning in. I will see you next time. Dorothy Kelly.